What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with the next episode of Educate and Dominate, the one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names in the game and get their insight so we can bring your game to the next level. My next guest is a person that I'm sure you already know about if you've been keeping up on the current events, the New York Regional's quarterfinalist representing the Guardian 3 Guild Malicious. We have ourselves Mr. AsianRepublic. What is going on, boss?
Doing good, doing good. Good to be working with you, Childish, and can't wait.
Yeah, buddy. All right. So again, guys, just coming off the plane, both of us here, we wanted to tune in as it's been a crazy couple of weekends with the LA Regionals and the New York Regionals respectively. Tons of stuff to talk about. We're going to be going, starting off with a little bit of just, his personal background, his experiences when it comes to the event, but then we're definitely going to get into some of the strategy that was employed on this aspect, on his side of things, so that you guys can see how he was able to make it up into the quarterfinals. So without further ado, let's get right into it, my man. We got to start out with your experience. I mean, obviously we've kind of gone back and forth a little bit off camera with regards to how amazing it is, but tell the viewers a little bit about your experience as a player at the New York Regionals.
Yeah, man, like the experience that I had at the New York City Regionals, like it was really cool. I never really expected to do anything like this, and meeting up with Malicious members that I've never met before, and meeting up with some of the LG members, and meeting up with Fa, etc., meeting up with you. Really cool experience. I've never thought that anything like this would ever happen to me, and it was really an amazing experience. And yeah, like the tournament itself, like I was like pretty nervous. Like you could see when I was playing, I was bouncing around and stuff. I just had to get rid of the jitters in my body, and yeah, like it's a high pressure situation, so you gotta deal with it somehow.
Yeah, I
So
was
I,
gonna.
I dealt with it in my own way. Yeah.
And I was gonna say I couldn't agree more. An amazing experience with regards to all the people that we met, including yourself. I think you were right in line with that, doing whatever you got to do to like just get back in your zone. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today is tournament play versus RTA online. Completely different ball game when it comes to the anxiety that could be led into a tournament with players of this caliber. So my same thing again as a commentator from my perspective. Super honored to be there. Big hats off to ComToUs for hosting all of these events across the world. But yeah, I mean, it was very, 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 very nerve-wracking for me, and I had to catch myself a couple of times because, again, I was just like in the moment and trying to get through my words. As some of the Twitch people in the community were calling me Rap God or Twista or some of the other stuff out there. But either way, let's get back into it here now. With regards to the topics that we just mentioned, you made a good point on this on the side, talking about that tournament play versus the RTA. Obviously, you're kind of in your element when you're at home, but with regards to tournament play, tell the viewers a little bit about why it was so much different for you, in your opinion.
So yeah, tournament play. I'll start with tournament play. So tournament play, it's completely different. Like, you like for the most part, you should know most of these players. They're mostly going to be high-profile players that you play against. My advice, if you are planning to get into competitive tournament play, is that you stay in high-profile guilds. You constantly do your arena. You do your RTA. So you sort of have your homework on how these players play, what monsters they favor, what playstyles they usually typically bring. Um, I'd say the one falter that I had was that I never really did RTA last season, so I sort of went into the whole tournament blind, and the only real practice I had was scrimming with other malicious members that I had, and frankly enough, three people from malicious in my lower part of the bracket, so I came in a little prepared, more prepared than I thought I would be. And for RTA Online, like the thing is, like the drafting is going to be about the same as tournament play, except for the exceptions of in tournament play, more people are going to be bringing niche picks. Like if we were to look at Goku's match against Chuffles, Goku really did a good job bringing in that Fire Mermaid against Chuffles. It threw him off completely. Um, but yeah, overall, the RTA online experience versus tournament play, mainly you're going to see a lot of cookie cutter stuff out of people in RTA online play, except for when you've probably face someone upwards of 5 matches. So that's the only time that I would say that you would see some differences and variations in picks. And in terms of RTA tournament play, you need to realize that you don't really have that many games to work with. So you need to bring your most solid strat, bring what works for you. Do your homework and sort of bring tech picks. And I use tech picks sort of like, use picks that sort of count, that either soft counter or hard counter the enemy, and try to run away with it, or have the monster that you bring be a ban that the opponent has to use against you, and then sort of like use your strategy with your other 4 monsters that you brought to try to get a win against your opponent.
And I couldn't agree with you more. You know, with respect to one of the things that you said, with regards to the high-profile guilds, I kind of wanted to add to it because I think you would agree with me on this. Being a part of a high-profile guild is definitely a great opportunity just to be in a group of like-minded individuals that have the same passion as you. But ultimately, you know, that passion or that aspect can be found, you know, if you're not in a guild, maybe in a line group or whatnot, you know, getting together with some people that can assist you and talk about strategies and whatnot. Lord knows we've had a lot of people over the years that have gotten together in various chat rooms to be able to discuss different strategies with regards to the game. But here's the crazy thing about it that you mentioned, you know, being a part of a high profile guild is great, but when it comes to RTA, or excuse me, tournament play, sometimes being under the radar may save you a little bit of you know, opportunity to not showcase, you know, your units of runes and come in there, you know, as an unknown and potentially you know, you'll bring something that people haven't seen, which I think we had a couple people out in there that people weren't expecting, bring in some unique monsters like you said before, and really do well. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've got to say, I've never known Goku eats watermelons before the tournament. I mean, okay, I knew Howie. It's just that I never really knew him too much for high level play. But when I saw the way that they played to get to the semifinals, and then they definitely brought it to Chuffles and Tiger. They did a really good job with the way that they drafted specifically against Chuffles and Tiger, and it sort of seemed like Chuffles and Tiger were sort of lost in what they were picking. Like the way that Goku transitioned from his round 16 to quarterfinals to semis, the way that he drafted in the semis was phenomenal, very unique, and something that a lot of future tournament players or future high-level RTA players can take note of. Like, yeah. There's not only just Nat 5 level picks like Hathor, Gani, Mo, etc. There's also like Fire Mermaid, there's Kamun that I brought, Ritesh. Ritesh, I mean, look, people gave me flack at the tournament afterwards, like, why are you bringing Ritesh? And then they're like, okay, it's okay for you to bring Ritesh, but like, I don't get how it works. But if it works for me, you know, it works for me.
There you go. And that's a good point that we'll make here with regards to your main monsters. For RTA, you know, as I'm going through this list, and we'll bring that up here in a second, your 5 main monsters, it seems to be, was Ciara Orion, we had Kamun, we had Ritesh, and I believe you said the last one was your Ragdoll, which is actually on a vampire set here. So, you know, tell us a little bit about your strategy coming into this. You know, how do you make this work? Why is it so strong for you?
So yeah, my 5 main monsters that I use for RTA, I almost pick it every single match. I start off with a Ciara or Orion pick, or if I'm second round, then I pick Ciara and Orion. So those are the 2 most common picks that you might find in higher level RTA. Even mid-level RTA, you might see people picking Ciara or Orion first. So you start off with those, and then what I usually do is I pick just almost insta-pick, if I'm first pick, is Ritesh and Kamun, or Orion and Ritesh. Ritesh, not a very common pick, but I didn't really think it would make much sense to pick Ragdoll in that place because not many people own Ragdoll to begin with. So I tried to go with picking the most common picks that people might pick against me, just so my strategy stays consistent with what I want to do. And I feel like the reason why the team works is when I play tested it with my 130 match data set that I had playing in the season, most people are trying to go ahead and kill Ciara, or if they ban Ciara, they're going to try and focus Ragdoll. And the thing about that is Kamun and Ritesh are there to protect them and let them live long enough for Orion Bioprocs to basically just decimate the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically just off of that, you just get some wins. And yeah, like people just really underestimate the Kamun shield. People don't they don't take into the consideration of what Kamun can bring to the table. Like if you leave a Ritesh unchecked, that's easily like 15k AoE damage due to the sheer amount of life that Ritesh has, and they really underestimate like how it really works. And going into like lower level amounts of life in RTA, even though there are max HP based monsters, like units like Perna and Camilla and whatnot, they're also losing life. They may be doing more damage, but they're also losing life. So the amount of damage that the monsters that are brought that can be done to like Camilla and Perna, like the damage is still meaningful.
Gotcha. And with respect to your Ritesh right now, I mean, 50k is nothing to shy away from, right? That's going to be still doing a decent amount of damage, despite the fact that it's not built, in a critical damage kind of build and whatnot. I'm a big fan of the speed-based Ritesh as well. One thing that I kind of want to think out when I think about your particular team is, when you lay it out, it's super strong. What are kind of some of the issues that you run into when I think about your setup? With respect to maybe Ciara, especially in the aspect that you do first pick on her. I use her as well. I like to go first pick. I feel like it doesn't give away too much strategy. People can go YOLO. People can go sustain. I mean, she's just a crucial component of any team, right? One of the things that's definitely going to set her back, if they leave her in there in the ban phase, is that aspect of immunity. A lot of people out there in your top end of the Guardian 3 RTA are going to be bringing one, if not two, immunities. How do you go about countering that if somebody kind of lays that out? You see them laying that out really early.
All right, so the biggest counters to my team, obviously, double immunity. I've seen people bring triple immunity, so it's like, oh yeah, so you can ban one of them, but full uptime on the immunity. So basically, if you have to deal with double immunity, you sort of just go into praying position, you go like this, and then you ask Orion to bioproc until all the immunity's gone, basically.
I love the strategy, bro.
you pray to RNGesus. That's how you win games, okay?
That's how you win games. I like it. All right,
just
so
go and pray.
just pray it out. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about one of the 5 ones here. I definitely wanted to put it out there. So this is one that was definitely, one of the more controversial picks. This is not something, I mean, both Ritesh and Kamun were both, top 2 controversial, but this one here, the rune build is definitely what caught me on guard, running a violent will on him. For those that may have been just tuning into like the RTA, like high-end gameplay for the first time, or excuse me, in the Kamun kind of strategy and whatnot, generally this is one that you build relatively fast, relatively tanky. You want to get you want to have it fast so that this passive that's provided based on 20% of the max HP, of course 26% when it all gets someone to play, you can get that in a relatively fast manner. The funny thing about it is that if you get a violent proc, sure, you get some additional turns, but you're not going to get any essential value out of the shield, because it only is going to protect the person with the lowest health, and even though you may put a shield on a lower health, it's not going to put it on somebody else, right? It's just going to keep on refreshing it. So I obviously I understand after watching you a little bit why this kind of came into play, but in your own words, talk about your thought process on the violent set. How does it work so well for you with regards to your team?
So the thing about violent Kamun is you're basically cycling out the skill cooldowns, and the thing about RTA, it's a very drawn out game. It's a very drawn out game mode, and basically you're definitely gonna be taking upwards of 20 turns every single game. The thing about Vio on Kamun is it cycles out the second skill, and then you can apply a first skill irrecoverable to stop the enemy strategy of trying to make it into a long game. And the burst from the second skill, like if you get that Vio proc, it feels really juicy. It's like you just smash them in. You just like boom, out. And that's just the great feeling that you get out of a violent proc from Kamun. It just really sets up early kills in the early turns of RTA, and in the later phases, like if we look back at the time where it was just Julian and Kamun, like Kamon is basically just keeping Julian from like getting wrecked. Like all you have to
Hmm.
do is just have Julian have his innate heal on his first skill, heal him up a little bit, and then Kamon sort of heals himself up a little bit from the Soul Devour. So
Yep.
you can definitely last the later matches of the RTA, even though he's a max HP based unit,
Right.
because it's not only your monsters decreasing in health bar, it's also the enemies. You need to keep that in mind also
Yep.
when you go into an RTA match.
And one of the cool things about this particular unit is that obviously the damage is done based on max HP, but the damage is increases as the enemy's HP becomes lower. So even though that aspect of HP scaling kind of sucks on the Kamoon side of things, like if you have a composition that's going to be able to bring a unit down, it's almost similar to like I don't want to say it's like a similar to regular assault, but it's like if you can get your opponent down to a respectable amount of health, like there's more of a reason for having the skill up as much as you can, because then you will just do some great damage on it and take it out lickety split like you did on a couple of those fights. Let's take a look at some other stuff here as well. Obviously, some of us haven't been as fortunate as you, bringing on board 2 light and dark nat 5s to your team. Ragdoll and Julian respectively. One of the things that I enjoyed watching you do, and I know that we talked about it on the side before recording this, was the aspect of picking it mid match. Picking it in like your second round of picks, and maybe even if you were the second, if you didn't get the first pick, maybe you picked it like one of the 2 monsters here. When we think about light and dark monsters, I see a lot of people waiting to the very end because they don't have to worry about it getting picked by the other opponent because it's so rare. Whereas you actually have a different strategy into play. You pick it in one of those first or 2 rounds of picks there. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I think the one thing that most players don't understand about the mid pick of LD Nat 5s is sometimes you want to pick it early, not to project anything, because I feel like the level of pressure that LD Nat 5s that are built for PvP are definitely much higher than those of the elemental type, except for the exceptions of something like a Molong, Gani, Wusa, those type of monsters. So the reason why you pick something like Julian and Ragdoll in the mid pick is the opponent's probably expecting you to pick it anyways, so they're going to build their strategy to try and deal with that. So you want to save your last 1 or 2 picks, depending on how the ban pick phase went, or how you were placed first or second pick in the draft. You want to save your last picks to try and counter the strategy that they brought to counter your LD Nat 5s. So you have a more favored position when in the pick and ban phase in the matches.
Gotcha. Very, very cool, sir. Thank you for elaborating on that. Now, this is something that I don't generally do, right? When it comes to creating like monster spotlights and whatnot for the community, we do a lot of stuff with respect to the first 3 elements here. But of course, light and dark nat 5s I generally don't focus on with regards to my channel because of the simple fact that you and 2 other people out there in the Summoners War community have, these monsters, right? So why don't we talk about Julian first, and then we'll kind of move on to Ragdoll. If you can, please tell me about your particular strategy using Julian in the PvP play, and maybe your recommendations as far as a build, or maybe your unit recommendations as far as what units would go to complement it. Is there a specific composition that would complement it, or is there something else?
So basically with Julian, he is a very interesting unit. He's sort of like a reverse Wadam. The thing about Julian is that if you own something like Perna, Julian sort of takes the back seat. He has less rune priority. And the only reason why is because Perna basically has double life. Like, even though if Julian has the passive, it's just like the benefits of having Perna over Julian are outweighed. But like if you have both of them, now if you have both of them, okay, you bring them to an RTA match together, you're just gonna destroy people because they just have so much sheer amounts of damage. But okay, that was off to the side sort of commentary. But the thing about Julian that makes him great is he works really well in teams that have a lot of shielding, a lot of passive healing. So he would really work well with Bastet, Perna, those type of units. Like if you throw a Bastet Perna Julian at the opponent, like no amount of shielding, no amount of immunity is really gonna be able to deal with the sheer amount of damage that you're bringing. And the thing is, it's just really difficult to deal with those types of monsters. You're basically going to have to bring a Thessarian to deal with those type of units, and the thing about that is you can either ban out the Thessarian, or the thing is you could also even just leave it up and then just take out one of the other crucial picks and just snipe off Thessarian with your Perna and Julian combo. In terms of rune builds, the ideal build is Violent and Will. If you want to have a replacement for Will, you can go Blade, you can go anything else really, just so long as the stats are 70% crit rate at minimum, so you have a 100% crit rate on your second skill.
Definitely.
Yep. And that's really it. Just have 70% crit on Julian, make sure he's as fast as possible. HP doesn't matter as much, even though I have a good amount of HP on my Julian. It's just the thing is, like, that's just how rune rolls go, right? You gotta work with what you have. You can't necessarily be like, okay, rune, I just, like, don't give me the HP percent substat. I just really just want, like, the attack. I just really want the speed. You know, disclude the HP. You can't really do that. You can't really.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's pretty good stats considering that you're not running any kind of like HP rune or whatever. That just kind of goes to show for people that don't put a lot of emphasis into the aspect of not just collecting those runes, but more importantly, farming that R5, getting those enchantments and grindstones to make those runes even that much sharper. It's super important, especially for endgame PvP. Now, let's take a look at this Ragdoll here. This is definitely a fun monster to incorporate for those that haven't messed with this. Tooth for a tooth, where it's funny, I could have swore this used to be eye for an eye. No, that was Leah, right?
Yeah.
Leah was eye for an eye. Okay, I don't know why. I think I'm thinking about the whole what's it called, the whole quote, you know, that like that phrase, the slogan, whatever, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, whatever. So
very popular.
Right. So increases the attack by the allies by 20% if an ally receives a critical hit. Obviously, this is super strong when it comes to RTA, considering that a lot of these attack-based monsters, I mean, just monsters in general, you know, we try to get a little bit of extra crit if we can. There's really no reason not to get it, right? It's just additional damage. So tell me a little bit about this one, kind of in the same line that you did with Julian, you know, your particular RTA build, you know, your recommendations maybe for people that have it, and what kind of units would complement it.
Ragdoll is a very unique monster. I think that he's a very strange monster to build. He's on Vampire right now, but the thing is, like, I feel like it's absolutely fine to go Rage on Ragdoll because, like, I don't think that most people focus Ragdoll depending on your team, and like, if anyone remembers the New York Regional Tournament, like, my Ragdoll was 100% banned every single match. I brought it to every single match. So it was a 100% pick rate and ban for me in tournament from the small data set that we have, and it was just 100% banned. They'd rather deal with my Perna, Julian, they'd rather deal with my Ritesh Kamun. And, yeah, so basically, the thing about Ragdoll, the niche about him is he's perfect ban bait in tournament format. And in RTA online play, it's sort of weird because some people would rather ban my Sierra, some people would rather ban my Ryan. And then I've had some people just ban my Kamun. I'm just like, what? Excuse me, sir. Like, do you see the other monsters that I have out here?
Right.
Yeah. And so it was sort of funny, but I'm just gonna tell you straight. If you ever face me, just ban Ragdoll. Ragdoll will win the game alone.
That's crazy.
I don't care if your units don't crit. He's just him being there changes the diversity of what the game is going to be like. So it's better to not deal with him and deal with units that you're more familiar with in RTA.
And that's a really good thought process. That aspect of the ban bait, you know, creating. Obviously, you want to use Ragdoll, but like you said before, it's just such a strong monster. More times than not, it's going to get banned. So that's a really good, you know, point that you made there. You know, obviously his passive. There's nothing. I don't think there's really any specific that you can say as far as, you know, units that, you know, complement it. I mean, anything that enjoys getting a little bit of attack bar boost is going to be great to it. But any particular strategy that you've enjoyed using with regards to Ragdoll that has worked well? Have you ever paired it with like a different kind of resurging unit, or is the passive enough? What do you think?
The thing about Ragdoll is basically you want to complement him with other units that take a lot of turns. Ragdoll really strives when the game starts decreasing in HP and decreasing in attack, because like the thing is, Ragdoll Torrent, I mean, okay, it does like 5k damage on second skill if he's full HP against a unit with average EHP. And people that don't know what EHP is, it means the effective HP of a monster, which means that the higher the EHP, the harder to kill the monster. It combines the HP stat and the defense stat. It's a very complicated algorithm, etc. You can look that up yourself.
Gosh.
So basically, EHP decreases naturally when the rounds of RTA go longer. And Ragdoll really works well with units that have Violent. Ragdoll really works well with units like Orion and Unicorns. Both are very good for Ragdoll. And the thing about it is, once you get to the lower stages, Torrent doesn't need to be... You don't need Ragdoll to be below 30% for Torrent to be a disgusting tool to demolish other enemy units. And yeah, that's the beauty of Ragdoll. Like, he's a threat from the very beginning of the game, and then he becomes a game ender once the game comes to a close.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Well, let's take a break of those crazy premium units. So let's talk about a couple of things that may help the other 99% of the community that's watching this video, right? Mid-game RTA, right? There's a lot of things kind of involved and recommendations have been put out there in the community as far as different tips and whatnot here. For all the viewers that are watching today that are looking to get into the, maybe push into that Guardian rank there, what is your advice to them? How would you help them out?
So I think to begin with this segment, I think it's important to state why are people not really putting that much into doing RTA from a mid-level perspective? And I think the reason is that, like, there's a lot of Season 1 Guardians just farming points for auras and stuff in a Fighter and Conqueror level. They try to just prey on mid-level players. I mean, if you've ever played Clash of Clans or Clash Royale, there's always going to be that guy that's like, what, 1 or 2 levels ahead of you, and you're like, why do I have to deal with this guy? Why is this guy here?
Right.
And then you sort of have to give up your points, and it feels bad because maybe you worked really hard to get those points, and then it's just like it was for nothing because someone that outclassed you just took away your points from you. And it's just, I mean, I don't really think there's a fix to that Comtwits can necessarily do. It's just the way it is. It's just something that you have to deal with. It's just a sad fact of what mid-game players just have to deal with. It's just how it is. But I think that for mid-game player or mid-level RTA players to really do well, you need to realize that you don't necessarily need the strongest units to do RTA. Like, I own Hathor, I own Wusa, I own Tiana, I own those type of units, but the thing is, like, I don't really bring them to RTA. I bring what makes me happy, what's fun for me, and what brings me the results in terms of what I like to bring to RTA. And, I mean, the thing is, I think that people need to realize that it's still a game. RTA is just a part of the game that people want to play if they're interested, and it's just important to have fun. Like, if you want to have like advice on what monsters that you should bring to RTA, look at what you bring to Arena, look at what you bring to Guild Wars, what's bringing you the most consistent results from there, and try to base your strategy off of what you bring from there into RTA and bring it against your opponent. I mean, the only difference between facing an AI and a normal person in RTA is that the brain behind the enemy RTA team is obviously going to outweigh the AI of one that you would fight in Guild Wars or Arena. So you should basically think about it like, what's the worst case scenario for what the enemy brings to an RTA match, and try to work your strategy around what they have. And I understand that most players might not have all the options, but try to figure out like niche picks that that the enemy might underestimate and try to run away with a win using your tech monster pick. And like I said before, tech monster picks are basically like a soft or hard counter against the enemy team composition that gives them a less favorable position to win the game.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that aspect. I was actually thinking about something that I am currently doing, you know, with regards to Guild Wars. Not so much related to RTA, but, you know, I had that recent Nat5 pulled Rakan and Chiwu, so of course those are, you know, exceptional RTA marks that they could do well, but, you know, even as of late, I actually have not, you know, had them be any kind of auto pick or anything, because simply put, you know, I need to incorporate, you know, certain monsters, certain strategies, you know, to complement those monsters in order to work. And if I don't feel comfortable with it versus what I generally see and whatnot, you know, I can't, you know, I'm not going to do it. So, you know, obviously I'm looking to work them in, you know, down the road when I can, but that's a big thing. Trying to force certain monsters just simply because they are the premium units. Yes, they are great, but if you don't have a, you know, strategy or thought process behind it to, you know, really complement it so that you can incorporate it, you know, as you know, what's the point, right? But either way, you know, one thing to kind of point out is early on in the message that you said, you were talking about, you know, not a lot of people are motivated by it with respect to the monsters. Let's put the monsters aside. How about the rewards? You know, when we think about the arena side of things, we got mystical scrolls, we got the, you know, glory towers, we have obviously the #1 thing, you know, the Devilmons, right? And that's a super cool thing. With regards to RTA, I think you would agree with me on this. If they incorporated, you know, something with maybe a small permanent stat boost, or even like a Devilmon per se, you know, I might give more reason for people in the community to go ahead and test out that RTA a little bit more.
Precisely. Like, people really don't have much incentive to do RTA. If you enjoy doing RTA and it's your cup of tea, go for it. Like, if you can make G3 RTA with what you have, like, definitely just keep on doing that. Like, if you enjoyed playing the game, then playing RTA in the game, then that's definitely something that you should continue doing. Just like how most of my priority goes towards Guild War defense, and if you've seen my matches, the amount of monsters that you see in the Guild War defense that I bring to RTA, it just shows my playstyle. I just love Guild War. I love being a part of a guild and all that stuff.
Yep.
In terms of auras, I think that, yes, they're nice. They're nice, sort of like a transmog. I think it's acceptable for transmogs to not give anything other than a look. It's sort of like if you went to League of Legends. It's like a skin. It's like, wow, it makes the monster do things cooler. Animations, like, you really want the animation reduction on your monsters, because that speeds up it's juicy. It speeds up your runs. It's spicy.
I like it.
It's like, get that 10-second shred off. You know what I mean? That saves you time to get stronger. That's something I like to see. And I think the thing about auras, yeah, they are a form of they're sort of like transmogs, but giving like really small stat boosts to give players incentives to play, like what? Like the Conqueror aura could give +1% stat to all stats. Almost unnoticeable, but it's enough to be like in a situation where your monster is at a sliver of health and it could have been killed. Like, that 1% could do something there, and that's something that, like, if everyone had the aura, it won't necessarily change the gameplay at all. It's just like if they made the auras within the shop do different things, like an offense aura, which gives like +5% attack and crit damage and +3 speed, or a defense aura where it gives +5% defense, +5% HP, and +3 speed. Like, give some diversity in the distribution of stats in the auras. That would be a really cool way for people to build their monsters differently, not just off of runes, but off of another aspect in the game.
Yeah, very cool. I was gonna say too, even if they don't want to incorporate something with regards to stat, that aspect, the whole like transmogrification. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna put Comptuous on blast right now. I've been playing right for 3 years. I don't even know how long we've had the opportunity to get the different types of unique skins. I think it's probably been a good 2 years. What do you think? 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's about 2 years.
Okay, maybe close to 2 years, year and a half. I kid you not. I have collected. I've never bought any skin packs. I probably have collected maybe like 350 over almost 2 years, which to me is horrific. Like that's pretty bad, considering how many monsters there are in the game, and that you have to get. You only can buy one for each element, right? It costs 100 for whatever. So if they don't decide to reduce the amount that you have to put in there, maybe have some kind of reward where we can use RTA points or whatnot to get some of these like convert them to stones or something of that, so we can have some unique, looks. Obviously the auras are great, but it would be super cool to have those auras paired with some of the unique, skin packs or skins that they got. So I thought it's pretty cool.
I mean, like, on that topic, I think it really depends on what Comtwist wants to do in terms of the future. Like, stones, transmog stones, like, they really just changed the aspect of how a monster looks, so it's not necessarily important for your monster to look different, you know what I mean? So I feel like the way that they have the system right now is fine. It's just that it really sucks because you really got to put a lot of time into farming to get it free.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that really bites.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. Hopefully we can figure that all out so that can change for the better. Let's get back to the topic of the New York Regionals here. It was super cool. Out of 16 competitors, you were one of the 5 that got an opportunity to play. And then, of course, 2 out of those 5, Tiger and Truffles, respectively, was able to finish off as the finalists here. A lot of people have taken a look at the gameplay, including yourself. So if you could put out, your kind of, positive feedback, constructive criticism with regards to what you currently saw from both of those players leading into the finals here in November, what would that be?
So I'll start with Chuffles. I think that Chuffles from round 16, from round 16 to the finals, he had a really good draft against most of his opponents. The only blunders I saw in the draft were our second match that crashed. That was a blunder. The matches against Goku, there was some blunders when he saw the Fire Mermaid pick from Goku. I feel like Chuffles just didn't really know what to do against it. He didn't really have any prep for that, so he had to sort of wing it, and it cost him a round. So overall, I think Chuffles was really solid overall, other than slight blunders in draft and pick, but it's understandable because the opponents that he fought on the way up all brought unique picks, including myself. Like, no one really fights Kimon in RTA, so he had to prepare very differently for me.
Right.
Like, I thought that his Praha Wadam combo against me was absolutely brilliant. It just makes it extremely difficult to kill any of his threats, and he really played out the draft really well when I fought him. And his ability to take down Syntech is phenomenal. It was sort of like a coin toss between him and Syntech of who would get out of that, and then I was sort of doomed. Like, I have to face Shuffles or Syntech in the next round.
Right.
so yeah, sort of a struggle. But Shuffles, seriously, his draft was on point, and yeah, that's all I can really say about him. I think he's going to do really well coming into the RTA tournament in LA, and I wish him the best of luck. And we move on to Tiger. Tiger did really well this tournament, obviously being the tournament winner. I think that there was a lot more glaring weaknesses to point out, definitely in terms of his pick ban. Outside of the match against Tedans and the match against Chuffles, which I'll elaborate more on, like against Tedans, he picked out Wind Monkey King, and Tedans really didn't expect that at all. So Tiger ran away with the round 1 win against Tedans, and then from then on, I feel like Tiger sort of played the draft a little poorly against Tedans, where he would pick Vivichel and Tedans would pick. Tiger would pick Vivichel, and then Tedans would pick Chasen. And I think that Chasen is actually a very brilliant counter pick to Vivichel, and Tedans really played it out really well. I didn't like. The thing about Tiger's matches is that it was not convincing that he would win any of his matches 2-0, or he would be favored to win even in the third match based off of the pick ban. And that's something that can only really be looked at if you have a deep understanding of how RTA works or how the game in Summoner's War PvP works. I think for Tiger, the best advice I can give for him is talk to his guildmates, ask him like what picks for RTA should he be bringing, or what type of monsters should he be building out of the ones that he has. He has so many monsters. Right. He's such a brilliant player. I really want to see him bring out more stuff rather than bring cookie cutter sort of comps and then being counterpicked in the World Championships. That's the one thing he really needs to work on, is just pick ban and diversifying what he's going to bring to the World Championships so he becomes a bit more unpredictable. And as we saw from the NYC Regionals, being unpredictable does get you wins.
Yep.
So you really need to work around having your own unpredictable picks.
Yep. Definitely. Cool. So with respect to the ending part of the video, let's take it back from, two players to the Summoners War community. We've talked a lot of different things that you kind of incorporate yourself, and then we focus on a little bit of, mid-game strategy for people. If there was a takeaway message that you can tell to just anybody with any aspect of the game, whatever you would like to talk about, what is the best advice you have for the Summoners War community?
In aspects of any game mode, I'd say just in general, just have fun playing Summoners War. Like, if you're not having fun, then what's the point of playing? What's the point of wanting to improve? What's the point of going to R5 and getting your 6% stat up to 7%? Like, I've blown like upwards of 10 hero grinds on violent runes, just getting 6 to 7%. And I think it's absolutely crazy for me to do that, and I think a lot of high-end players do the same. I don't really know the ideology behind what other high-end players do, but like, it takes a whole lot of dedication just to get that 1% stat. I didn't just become good over day. Tiger didn't just become good overnight, etc. Shuffles, etc. Like, no one that went to this tournament was just like, oh, we just threw money at the game and we're good.
Right.
You need to be very efficient in your resources. You need to think, okay, if I do R5 and get this specific grind, I'm going to put it on this monster, it'll become better, etc. So overall, just have fun playing Summoners War, and don't be afraid to ask for advice from any of us.
Yeah. Speaking of advice, I definitely have a great announcement to make, and I'm going to steal it from you because I know that it would be silly for you to kind of do your own self-promotion. I have recently talked with AsianRepublic, since he, as you guys can tell, loves to chat when it comes to the game of Summoners War. He is going to be coming back into the influencer community, hopping on both YouTube and Twitch. I am going to provide his links for you in the description down below. He's looking to come back, set aside a few hours in a day to assist the Summoners War community, whether we're talking about, he's sitting back doing his farming and just providing a little advice for you, or if you have a specific question that he can answer for you, he's going to be there. So definitely keep that in mind. It really means the world for all of you guys that have supported various people in the Summoners War community. I do feel that AsianRepublic has an extensive amount of knowledge and can do you some justice by taking some time to check out his channels, okay? Outside of that, guys, on behalf of AsianRepublic and myself, I just want to say thank you for everybody that tuned in this weekend. It was just a pleasure to be able to have this for you. And once again, AsianRepublic, thank you for taking the time to come on board and doing this video literally 48 hours after we got done with the event. It's been amazing, man. Quite the pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Childish. I couldn't say any more of the same of what you said for everyone. Like, thank you everyone for watching, and yeah, I'll be doing my own YouTube and Twitch stuff. I hope that you guys will enjoy my content. I've gotten a lot of advice from Come To Us employees, Childish, Claytano, on the subject matter. So I really hope that I'll be able to provide just as good as content that Childish has brought for us.
Oh, you're saying that, though, you can stop right there. No, keep going.
Hug from the camera over here.
There it is, the big hug. No, it's all good, my man. I appreciate the kind words. So But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. If you guys think this is just a one-off kind of video, you are in for a treat. I'm going to be reaching out to just about every single player in the Summoners War, regionals that I can get a hold of, whether we're talking about the New York regional side, the LA side. I'm really looking forward to getting together and talking with them to provide you guys some more educate and dominate videos. I definitely want to put it out there with regards to an apology, as I know that the frequency of my educate and dominate definitely hasn't been what it has in the past, simply for the fact that it is extremely hard to connect with various people across the world. So hopefully for any of you of the top 16 in the LA regionals and the New York regionals are listening now, keep that in mind, as I might be reaching out to you in the future very, very shortly, so that we can get connected. If you feel that you have something that you can bring to the mix as far as educating the Summoners War community, assisting them when it comes to RTA, as this is definitely part of that late to end game content for Summoners War, and I feel like it'd be great to have more content out there for us. All right, so that's going to be it, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's your boy Childish and AsianRepublic with ChildishPlays checking out. Take care, and see you guys in the next episode of Educate and Dominate. We're out.